I'll tell you how I started out writing this book, and then, you'll kind of see what I mean after I read this. It was late, the moon had risen, and the night symphony was in full force. Crickets chirped at their rivals, the frogs, and dominated the night chorus. Only one sound in the forest was foreign, a whimper from under the ferns. At the base of the largest pine in the woods was a small form crying, moaning, and whimpering. Black hair, matted and dirty, hung in long ropes down the front of the tiny girl. She had been in this spot for hours, at least that's what it felt like to her. Stretching, she cried out in pain. The blood-covered welts burst open to bleed again. Her back was wet with blood, and her dress was torn and useless. Why had she dared to speak to the woman that she was obliged to call mother in that way? She knew that talking was not allowed from children before chores were finished. The accusations being made by Ma were totally false, and she could not let Elmer take the blame for something she herself had forgotten to do. She shut her eyes tight against the memory, but it intruded anyway. This is about Nan. Some of you guys have read it. Mm-hmm. She's 15 years old, runs away with her little 5-year-old brother to safety. And she's afraid they're going to start beating on the little brother, too. So, if you already have this book, you can give it to somebody or give it to a school. And I drew Taylor. That's you.
It's a good book.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, how I started, some people want to know, how do you start to write a book? Well, when I was born when my mom and dad were in their 40s, and they were on the tail end of the wagon trains and stuff like that. Well, not trains, but they would move with wagons. People didn't have cars and stuff. So, Dad, when he was a toddler, like some of these little boys that were here today, they had him asleep in the back of the wagon, and he fell out in the tall grass up at the top, close to Oklahoma and Kansas were there together. And he woke up just as the wagon was going over the rise, and he toddled. He was 3 or 4. He followed the prints in the grass till he got a hold of his mom and daddy. And so, they had all these kind of stories like this, makes you chill, You think, oh, man. But he could have been lost forever. Mm-hmm. And, they found him and didn't think much of it, I guess. They were moving. Oh, they were busy. And my mama tells about how they lived in houses with dirt floors when she was little. Her mom and daddy were sharecropper type. Mm-hmm. They would live in an old house on the corner of somebody's land and help them bring in their crop. Mm-hmm. And she'd tell how they would clean the floor of dirt floor. And I said, well, how do you clean a dirt floor? She said, you sprinkle it like you sprinkle your laundry. And then you just easily sweep. And it makes it hard packed like cement. And, you just hope nobody scuffs their feet on it and makes it dig it up a little bit. Mm-hmm. But, I grew up learning all these things about the old times and separating cream and making the butter and just doing all the different laundry, making your soap, and
I lived those days.
All this stuff like that. And we watched all these westerns on TV. Mm-hmm. Well, I remember I was real little and we was watching Gunsmoke. And I saw one episode that just really upset me because this girl came in to see the doctor and her back was all beaten. And she looked so bloody, and they didn't show that kind of stuff on TV back then. And it bothered me, and they said that this girl's daddy beat her, and I'd never had a daddy that would beat me, and it really bothered me, and I don't remember the rest of the story. But when my kids were little, I was doing dishes. This was like 20 years later, and that flashed in front of my eyes, that scene of that little girl with her back, and I thought, wow, that must have really upset me to be thinking about it again. So I thought, I wonder how that story ended, and then my mind started whirling, and I thought, well, I wonder what would have happened to her. What if she had a brother? How would she get away? What kind of challenges would they face? And all that kind of stuff. So the story started turning in my head, and I got out a big old legal pad because nobody had computers then, and just started writing the the story. And then my kids came home from school, and I felt like I had wasted my day, and I kind of threw it in the drawer and thought, you terrible, terrible mother. You know, you wasted your time. You needed to fold laundry. But it kept nagging at me. Like for 7 years, I would find this and then add to it. And I finally got a computer and was putting it all on the computer one day. And this one friend of mine instant messaged me and said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Oh, I'm just transposing my old book into a file." And she says, "Oh, send it to me." So I send her what I had, and she goes, "Okay, you didn't send the whole thing." And I said, "Yeah, I did." And she says, "It's not done." So I'm like, "Oh, you want more?" And she said, "Yeah, write some more." So I would write just enough to get her to shut up. And then she'd go, "Well, what happens? You know, what happens?" So she nagged me into finishing the book. The day I finished the book, I thought, well, that was nice. I mean, I felt accomplished because I had done something that I didn't think I'd ever finish. And I thought, well, this will be something the kids find in the drawer after I die, and they'll throw it away and say, "Poor mother."
She must have been bored.
She was really bored. My husband's a truck driver. He gets home at like 10 o'clock every night. When they were little, and so I had a lot of time on my hands. So I figured they'd say, just wasted her time. But then the next day, I went to church, and one of my friends, that she had also been nagging me to send her emails, and she says, "You finished the book?" And I said, "Yeah." And she says, "My niece works for the acquisitions department of this publisher in Oklahoma City called Tate Publishing, and said they are needing fiction right now. You need to send her your file." And I said, "Okay, well, you send her a note first and tell her I'm going to send her," because I was scared to death, you know. Anyway, so I sent it in, and I know the Lord knew I can't take rejection, because, you know, you hear these authors that send in 200 and get 200, "No, we don't want you." If I would have gotten one of those, I would have just bawled and just quit. But the Lord was behind this, and this is a Christian publisher, and they took me. And so I've written the 3 books. Well, while they were working on the first book, and I still had my nerve up, you know, you kind of have to wind yourself up and think, I can do this again. I thought, I'm going to finish the story with Nan, because I made people kind of mad because I left it kind of hanging. What happened to that baby? Yeah. I had a lot of people kind of mad about that. So I thought, while they were working on it, I did this. So I'm giving this one away next. And this one is the first one that has the free download. I don't know if you saw that on the last page. That one doesn't have a free one, but this one, you can get the audio for free. If you have this book, it's in there. So it's kind of like a $25 value. Anyway, let me see. This is a piece of the book that won't ruin anything for you. So, okay. Bluebird scanned the horizon for signs of a familiar rider. She had not seen her oldest son in almost 2 years. The wilderness was treacherous even in these days of civilization. People had always mistaken Elk for a half-breed, and sometimes that created conflict for him. She was sure that his heart was Ute, but his heritage was all white man. He had been an answer to her prayers, and she was certain she had been the answer to the cries of the motherless babe. She chuckled quietly as she remembered the day he realized he was not born Ute. A flurry of dust billowed into the small deerskin dwelling as her small boy burst in through the opening. She had been tending to one of the younger siblings and looked up. She felt a small frown crease her brow. "He said it again, Mother." "Who said what, Elk?" "Tall Trees said that I do not belong." "Why would he say something like that?" "Elk, you're my son. You belong," she stated flatly. Elk stormed out of the teepee and ran to the creek. He followed the creek until he came to the beaver pond. Tall Trees had said that he would know the truth if he looked into the pond at his reflection. He peered to the still water and studied his reflection. He sat with his back against a big fallen log. In his 5 summers on this green earth, it had not occurred to him that he was any different than anyone else at the camp. The wind caught a lock of his hair, and he grabbed it with his hand. The truth was right before his eyes. His hair was the color of autumn grasses, not the color of night. He could not believe he had not realized this before. He ran back to his mother to ask about this mystery. Anyway, and this is about the twin that got sold, and how they met and found each other, his twin brother. You know what? I cried really bad when I had the guy steal the baby, and I was like, Lord, I don't really want this to go this way. Poor Nan, she's been through so much. And I thought, a twin. Oh, she can be happy too. Okay, we'll let her be happy and sad at the same time. Okay, Manny, Ross? Money? And if you have this already, you can give it away.
Hey,
Yay.
I've read it. Somebody, my daughter might have bought it.
I think Solomon gave them to you.
You didn't give them to me. I gave them back because I've never had them again. So. You let me read them.
Yes.
But it does have where you can make your own CDs.
Oh, I'll
or
read it again.
whatever.
I don't remember all that. I'll read it again. Trust me.
Now this is
Thank
about
you.
the little brother and little sister. Now this one, I bawl when I read my books. I'm sorry, I write them. If I don't cry a good part of the book, I know it's no good. So
It's not a girly book.
it's not a good book. And I had cried so bad in this one part on here, and my husband came in and he goes, "What's the matter?" And I said, "Oh." And he said, "What did happen?" I said, "Oh, they died." And he says, "Who died? Somebody died?" And I said, "Well," you know, I told him who it was, and he goes, "Well, who's that? Do I know that?" And I said, "Oh, my book." He goes, "I do not feel sorry for you. You're a murderer." Like, this is why do you kill off the people? You know, you killed Granny. People were mad about Granny, and now you killed this one, and you know you're going to get it. And I said, "Well, you know, life is hard." So, poor person. Anyway, I won't tell you who it was, but this one also has a free download. So just follow the directions. Oh, and this is funny. You know, the other books, the young people at Tate are professional, and they did the voices on them, but they sound kind of like Yankees. They're just a little fast. And I told the guy on Elk, I said, you know, you need to change your cadence to just a little bit slower, because it was Western, and they had plenty of time.
Right.
You know. And he goes, okay, and he slowed it down just a little bit, but he still sounds like a Yankee. So I told him, I said, I want my husband to read this one. Well, that may have been a mistake, because it might take a suitcase to carry all because he talks slower than me. But we went to Tate to have, just in January, to have him record this. And, you know, the other authors told me, now you'll go to the publisher house and they'll treat you like a VIP. I'm like, oh, I could use that. I've never been treated like a VIP before. You know, and so they'll have a parking place where your name will be on the door. They'll just treat you so good. So we got up there, and is snow on the ground. Had to park in the street. They didn't have a parking place for me. My name wasn't on the door. I told the receptionist I was there, and she says, well, we don't have you down, but you're probably across the street and recording. Okay, so we had to walk in the snow across the street. And there was a parking place in front of the recording place, but I didn't want to have to walk back across the street in the snow to get the car to have my parking place, you know. So anyway, we walked into this room, and all these kids are in there, you know, 20, 30s, you know, and they're just typing away on these computers, and it's almost like a schoolroom, no cubicles or anything. It's all just computers, and they're just all working away, and they have earphones and all this. And they were working on the music end and on the audio stuff, and so this guy jumps up and he goes, oh, Elaine, you're both here? And I go, yeah, he's going to be doing the voice. And he goes, okay, well, here's the booth. Well, I was thinking it'd be the size of a sound booth in a church. You know, I thought that was reasonable. No, it was like a phone booth.
Oh, dear.
Yes, it was little. It was a lot smaller than this table, about like this over. And there was a little ledge for the computer and the computer monitor, and every time my husband would make a mistake, he was supposed to hit 2 keys, and then they make a little line in the thing so they could see to fix it, you know, and then he'd have to repeat that line. And there was only room for his big chair and this huge microphone and the computer, and I said, well, I guess I'll be out here. And he goes, no, you have to stand here with me. and nudge me if I make a mistake. And I'm like, well, where am I going to sit? There wasn't room for a folding chair. He says, I guess you'll have to sit on the floor. So I sat on the floor behind his chair, and I said, don't you dare back up. You'll roll over me. You know, so I was sitting on the floor, and I was sitting there while he was recording, and I was thinking, VIP. Yeah, I was there 7 hours while he read the book. I was sitting on the floor. At once in an hour, the guy would come and knock on the door and get us out of there so he could save it. And my husband take a bathroom break. And my husband went one time. I said, "Can you do me a favor?" And the guy goes, "What?" And I said, "Can you kind of act like it didn't take?" Because we've been at it like 4 hours. And he goes, "Yeah." I said, "You know, I play tricks on him all the time." He goes, "Okay." So Terry comes in there, and the guy's hanging his head kind of down, and Terry goes, "What's the matter? Did it not take?" And the guy goes, "Oh man, I can't do it to you." But Terry's heart stopped enough to, I was satisfied. But anyway, if you download this, you'll hear what my husband sounds like, and he does have a unique voice, doesn't he? Mm-hmm. It's like, "Michael, no, you can't do that." He's always telling me, "Babe." That's my name, Babe. Anyway, so I don't know if this has a good spot to read or not, but somebody will win this one. Oh, and this one I have a family tree on there because people were getting confused as who was related to who. And, I have to show you something else. I actually got my middle kid to do a drawing for me. If I can find it. He was supposed to do like 4 or 5, but he did the gypsy wagon.
Ooh, that's good.
We sent him off to cartoon school to be a cartoonist.
That's good.
Good.
That's good.
And that's
Wow.
real good.
I don't think that looks cartoonish.
No, I think it looked pretty good. So I want him to do some more for my next book, but I'm not high on his list. Priority. Okay, I'll read one paragraph of this one. This is about the youngest sister. The girl emerged from the putrid river, leading the yoke of oxen through the foaming brackish water. The wagon master promised that today would be the last they would have to endure the sight of it. The wind roughly whipped at her worn dress as she shielded her eyes from the glaring sun. She scanned the endless horizon and found no sign of her husband. Luke and George failed to return from their hunting trip last night. She shrugged off the concern, eating at her insides. Anyway, it they're on a wagon train to California. And hopefully everything turns out all right.
Oh, wow.
I always have one of my kids in mind when I describe people. This one is Mikey, and Elk is Marlin. So, and I'm writing one now that's my oldest boy, Stephen. Nikki Schrader.
Oh,
Nikki. There you go.
thank you.
Hey, now you've got another you can own me.
Yeah.
And we well heard all 3 of them.
Now, I put my son's, Mikey's wife, I used her in my mind as Purdy, the sheep herder girl. And she says, "Do you think I'm uncouth? Do you think I act like that?" I said, "No, I used you for the description. She's a pretty girl. She just, was raised in the woods."
She just didn't know anything.
She just don't know nothing. Anyway, so, I have fun doing this kind of stuff. And I'm going to try something different on my publishing. This time I'm doing an experiment. I have this book. It's called The Eyes of a Stranger. And it's loosely connected with the Nan. You'll see Nan in it just a little bit in her family, but it's mostly about this girl named Gertie. And I enjoy it. I'm working on the edits right now, and I'm hoping to have it out this summer. Wow. So just watch Amazon.com. Look up my name there, and you'll be able to get it hard copy or Kindle and stuff like that. So,
Wow.
anyway, y'all have any questions or anything?
Good books.
Pretty neat.
Really, if you have written something, poems, songs, fiction, children's, anything. Tate Publishing is a good company to work with you. And the Amazon has a deal where you can turn in books and it doesn't cost you anything, and you get a big percent of the money that comes in.
Wow.
So this one girl, if you saw that on the internet, she couldn't get any publisher to take her, and so she just published through Amazon, and she sold like 100,000 books a month.
Wow.
But she wrote those kind that the kids love, like the vampire stuff. I don't write that stuff. But I mean,
I bet some of those publishers are kicking themselves in the rear now.
yeah, one of them offered her $10 million or something like that for her series, for future books, and she's taking it because she says it's a lot of work lining up the editors. But I don't know if I would or not. I think I'd like, and she's only 26.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? Anyway, so there's ways to do it now that with the internet, and it's just crazy. And these Kindle books are like going like crazy. And if you want the Kindle, you will love it. I never thought I wanted one till I played with the one I got in the mail. Oh Lord, now I have to get one. It holds like 3,000 books in this one little deal. Have you played with them?
Yeah, I have.
You have one? And all the classics come for free on it, and it has this element on it where if there's a word in what you're reading you don't understand, you just hit that word and hit dictionary, and it'll give you the definition. I'm too lazy to do that without something like that. I think that would be very helpful.
Yeah, I might.
Yeah.
I might stop looking at that.
But once in a while,
I wonder what that means. And keep going.
I was telling Terry to use the word minion last night. He was asking about something. I said, "Oh, you ought to say so-and-so and their minions." And he goes, "I don't know what a minion is." And I told him, and he says, "I'm going to look it up."
He didn't believe you.
He didn't believe me. So anyway,
Funny.
that's all I have.
Thank you.